Radcast News. Hey guys, Ryan Alford, your host of the Radcast.
You're listening to the Radcast.
If it's radical, we cover it. Here's Ryan and Riley.
Here's your host, Ryan Alford.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Ryan Alford. Welcome to the latest edition of the Radcast and the first in an e-commerce series that we're just starting. And we thought, who else? I mean, I can't think of anyone else, Robbie, that I would rather have on for the start of the e-commerce series than Robbie Fitzwater. Good to have you, Robbie.
It's good to be here, and I can't think of anybody else I'd want to have on for the start of the e-commerce series. No, I'm kidding. It's a blast to be back. I always love this, and get to talk shop about marketing. Like there's nothing better.
Yeah. Well, Robbie is a professor at Clemson in digital marketing. He's been on the episode a lot. He's been a mainstay and will be a mainstay for us as a wealth of knowledge. He consults and is kind of our go-to strategist for e-commerce and all things digital marketing. So, I'm going to fluff you up, Robbie, and because, hey, you deserve it, man.
You know what, Ryan, I'm going to come out of here. Somebody after this is going to have to take me down a peg or two. Like somebody, like my ego is going to be way up here when it needs to be like casually down here. But I appreciate it. It's again, working with good people and on fun projects. So it's always a fun thing, and marketing's like solving puzzles. It's always something new.
I know, exactly. So the state of e-commerce, and really, I think, we talked pre-episode making this a really functional and tactical discussion and strategic. It's not just tactics, but about what brands and companies that might be listening can really take away as we lead into the holidays and the key opportunities for brands within e-commerce. Using your perspective on a lot of kind of current projects, stuff that we're doing here at Radical Together and some other projects that I have going on, but wanted to really just kind of dive in from a real day-to-day standpoint of things that people can be looking at. So just glad to have you on.
Yeah, it should be fun. And like, again, kicking around ideas, it's what I'm here for. And again, you guys probably are seeing it too, just kind of like that kind of weird lead up to the holidays. Everybody's kind of thinking about what they're going to do because it's going to be different than most other years. And for a lot of organizations, if they have a brick and mortar location and an e-commerce presence, they may be wondering how they can transfer more of their revenue or more of their volume into the e-commerce space, because they may be projecting a little bit lighter sales on the brick and mortar side. And trying to plan for that, it's probably better to start right now than October or November, because September's already here, and we're going to be halfway through September soon. So
Okay.
A lot of things thinking about is like, how do you get ahead of a lot of that work and really think strategically about how am I going to plan for the holidays, where we're going to have something really effective and seamless and smooth during the holidays, but also for the e-commerce presence, but also how do we take what we do on the brick and mortar side that kind of differentiates us, and how do we bring it into that e-commerce space where we can use what people look at as our core value as a great differentiator, even in the digital space. So how do we take our in-person shopping experience, where we may have great salespeople who help you with like style consultations, with like application of makeup, all of those things. How do we take all that great knowledge that we have in-house and bring it to them in a digital experience? Because we're not going to necessarily have them visiting in person the same way they may have in the past. And thinking about that ahead of time, where you can plan a strategy where you're not spending a lot of money on ads right in the middle of the holidays when ad costs are going way up, and trying to get ahead of that audience building. So like kind of like three phases of it that I've thought about and kind of worked through with groups is, how do you think about that first transition from where you were at on the brick and mortar side to more volume on the e-commerce side, and kind of going back to what makes you unique and what makes you valuable. like offering opportunities for scheduling consultations for high ticket items and giving people the chance to purchase those items and get like the high touch hand holding and the like expert consultations they need for those high dollar transactions. And that's like taking where you would normally have the in-person to like, how do you schedule a private Zoom with one of our sales team, schedule a private Zoom with one of our style consultants. And I feel like the groups that are doing that and starting to think and get ahead of that are going to be the ones that are going to be able to win a lot of those holiday purchases, because people don't want to go into the store, but they still want to have that same empowering experience.
And to that end, I literally was reading this morning, Ulta, their revenue's down 95% year over year, but their e-commerce sales are up 200%. And you said makeup, but perfect example and of that exact scenario you're laying out. Built their business on brick and mortar for the most part. They have e-com there that's been in the background, not a terrible experience, but they need to be doing exactly what you're saying, because again, they got to right that ship.
I mean, it's compensating for the major loss that they're getting in store, but also it gives them an opportunity to kind of scale that experience. Like, take your rock star, like who is like the best person at Ulta? How do you take that rock star and like put them, like give them a spotlight to shine and really allow them to kind of scale that experience in so many ways, and then allow people to dive deeper into like this really intimate experience in the store that they would normally get in the store on a Zoom call. And you're going to have less people just sitting around kind of waiting for something to do, because you're going to have people queued up, like kind of wanting more and wanting more insight. That's where kind of that real magic is going to happen. And then you can understand what products you're working with them that you think they would enjoy, what products they made, what products are going to fit for them, what products are not. And if your company's sophisticated enough, you're putting that into a CRM where you can keep track of, hey, you were looking at this, you liked this, and then follow up with them afterwards. So there's lots of easy opportunities that opens up, but it kind of allows those businesses to transition from where they were so dependent on brick and mortar to where they have a lot more differentiated positioning in the market. And they're probably a lot stronger in being able to handle, they can weather a larger storm now next time something like this may come around.
Do you think
so I
the
think
brick and mortar thing, I mean, you know, while we're kind of down that rabbit hole, it just strikes me that I don't want to say 2020's loss for brick and mortar, but I just don't see, you know, with COVID still around enough, whether no matter how you fall politically or anything else, and the election all the way in November, you know, like, I don't think we're going to suddenly, no matter what happens, whether it's politically motivated, it's obviously a real pandemic and other things happening. I feel like the brick and mortar comeback isn't going to happen this year.
No. And like 2022, that the golden age for brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But right now it's not, and like planning for it, and like planning and hoping it's going to be is like, you can hope, but like that's not a strategy. And like controlling what you can control and what you can improve on is probably going to set those groups up for success later on too, because great, you have a great brick and mortar presence, but how's your e-commerce presence and how does that transition? So you're doing the work you'd already be doing, you're just doing it 5 years ahead of time. And right now, again, like we've talked about in previous episodes of this, this just has accelerated so many things that you've just got to prepare for this in the same way you were working on getting an e-commerce presence in March. This is where you're planning on handling your holiday shopping in September for the holidays.
Yeah. And I love that idea that you had, you know, with finding your rock stars, because I could literally see, you know, the experience in e-com being like, and not just one rock star, but think about, you know, we'll use Ulta as the examples, but you know, they set up like their 10 rock stars that cover a lot of demographics and segments, you know, and they become your, not just your digital sales reps, but kind of your just digital personalities, you know, that you leverage on site in social media. You have some kind of interactive chatting that takes place, whether it's Zoom calls, whether it's within the platform. If you have that set up, again, leverage technology that's out there and on the shelf if you need to make the holiday happen, and think about it long-term as within one app, one experience. But again, how do you tee up those segments and those rock stars across the stores and the brick and mortar? I think that could be huge for a lot of different segments.
So like there's suddenly tastemakers, there's suddenly like you suddenly have a group of influencers working for you with your business who you've given a platform and empowered. Like that's just a win-win-win for everybody. And the people that love doing that, like they're going to love doing that and getting to say, hey, you may not be helping 10 people a day in the store, but you're going to help hundreds of people, thousands of people outside that you may never even realize, like millions of people potentially, like especially in the cosmetic space, like the views of that content goes so astronomically high, but those are so easy to do because like they're just extending kind of what they do in person to a digital space, and hopefully they have fun with it just as much. Those are the people that really kind of care about it and passionate about it, that just love helping people. And it doesn't matter if it's face-to-face or online. So those are where some really opportunities are. And especially during the holidays, like doing that early. So everybody's going to be doing a lot more sales related messaging during the holidays. You need a lot more content to break that up. So you don't just seem like a used car lot, like sale, 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 sale. You need some content to kind of have in between. So it's not so heavy handed that you just kind of burn out your audiences. It's kind of, that's going to be another piece. It's like finding a balance, because you really can't just say all sales messaging. Like the holiday weekend, like Black Friday, Cyber Monday weekend, there is going to be more messaging than you probably ever normally have during the year, but you can't go sale heavy when you don't have any content to kind of break it up, because everybody just gets overwhelmed by that flood. And when you're the person that can have like some sales messaging, add some value, sales messaging, add value, that's a group that's going to win, because they're not so heavy handed and they're kind of still building a relationship while still kind of extending that communication and relationship with the brand. So like planning for more content around that time, because you need it. And your holiday gift guides, those are great to use around that time. And like, again, on the email side, I do this with a lot of groups, is like planning for lots of stuff that we're going to be able to use and probably recycle even around that time. But you need a strong base of content to consistently be messaging with, because everybody's going to get so burnt out by Friday afternoon with sales messaging that by Saturday morning, you better be leading with content, because that's what's going to break through the noise at that point in time. And how you can differentiate yourself by not just being so heavy handed.
Yep. And how many times, and having, been experienced this at different levels, either directly working in retail, working with retail clients, or larger brands, I can count. I mean, I can't even count on two hands how many times they've stressed over the ability to scale their best people in their best stores. Because, Sam, who does awesome at the XX location, I wish I had 100 of them. Well, here's your opportunity to scale. It's like, this is it. This is how you, again, like you said, can I serve 10 or 20 customers in a store? How do you leverage Sam to now sell, hundreds, depending on the brand. And this isn't just exclusive to makeup and Ulta. This could be in any company, in any vertical, for leveraging your best people.
So I like makeup and cosmetics as an example, though, because makeups and cosmetics is like this
Experience.
The experience is so amazing, and the lifetime value of those customers is so high. And that's so much where some amazing innovations happening. Like I'm a man, I don't wear makeup, but I follow makeup companies because they're doing so many amazing things. Like Glossier, like don't even get me started. I will go on a Glossier like rampage. Like my wife uses Glossier now because like I talk about it so much, because they're amazing.
You're an influencer.
I'm like, send me their emails, and they're brilliant. Like it's awesome. It's human, it's interactive, and everything they do is just just spot on, amazing. But that's where so much of the innovation is happening, because it's a dogfight for that high lifetime value purchaser who wants something really unique, really kind of that speaks to them as a person, but they're hard to win over. So you've got to consistently elevate your game as far as experience goes. And you have so many other players that are doing it well, that have deep pockets that want to do it kind of that same level. And I think that's where kind of it drives in so much innovation in that industry.
Same thing in supplements, I mean, in fitness and supplements, it's very similar.
It's like, I love the Business Wars podcast. I listen to the Business Wars podcast a lot, because like Pepsi needs Coke needs a Pepsi to make it better. Like Nike needs an Adidas to make them better. And those industries that are pushing themselves really far are the ones that are really innovative and doing great things. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people can learn something from. Like, where do you take a non-relevant industry to your particular case, and how do you borrow some of the magic that they're doing that they're having in marketing, and bring it into your own? Because that's where those like real wins are going to come from, not from looking at your competition and seeing what they're doing. And even in one of my classes for like digital audits, I have them pull in different accounts or different businesses that they can use as inspiration for in a non-parallel industry, that they can use for inspiration for improving a given business that they're focusing on.
Yeah, I love it. So transitioning a bit to, and we're kind of blending things in here, but are there things that you would, recommend as we're coming up on the holidays? Obviously with the brick and mortar overlay we just talked about, but any tactical advice, for companies or people listening, like, as the holidays are here, you need to be preparing. Where would you counsel people kind of listening as how to really maximize the holidays that are coming up, given the climate? I mean, there's so many kind of variables going on. You've got the election, you've got the COVID client, you've got other things, and none of those are crutches. But, with all of that in play, what's your counsel to people as they kind of think about ramping up for the holidays on the e-commerce side?
Build your lists, get your lists ready to go. And that's your email list, your SMS list, your retargeting lists. Those lists are going to be your best friend come November, because you don't want to be paying for new people coming in the door for the first time during the holidays. Your ad prices are going to be so high and astronomical, you can't rely on that first time purchaser. So how do you take your current lists, really serving your email audience, and really get them on board with what you're doing, and again, get them ready to purchase, because they're probably going to be making their kind of like share of wallet decisions early. So be messaging around the holidays and getting them to opt in early, and making sure you're taking care of your repeat customers like they're your best customers, because they are, and getting your list ready. So tactically trying to build a VIP list ahead of time. So starting in early November, messaging and saying, hey, we are kind of like, we know everybody's preparing for the holidays. We wanted to offer this as an opportunity. Sign up here for our VIP holiday list for an extra discount on addition to the holiday savings you're going to get, and early access to all of our holiday savings. So both those things in conjunction, making them really feel like rock stars. But you also have your opt-in audience who are playing like, hey, I already have like this much of my budget that I'm going to spend. I'm going to allot 25% to here. And I'm making that decision way early on, because I know that that's going to be an easy case, and I'm going to get the most savings and the most value from that. Because again, you kind of have to play the discount game. I try not to play the discount game during the most of the year, but this is a time of year that's kind of what you need to do. Again, in the States, we've trained everybody to expect high discounts around that time of year, and that's when they make purchases. But for those discounts, you're also going to be losing margin, and that's when you don't want to be paying that high acquisition cost when you're on a low margin sale. So for the business case, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And when you can get those people opted in early, you can build your pre-order list, and by the time you actually send them their codes, they're ready to go, and they're going to be purchasing right away. So getting those lists built early and building a VIP list ahead of time messaging your customers with like what you're going to have available, what you're really going to, what's going to make your holiday event unique. And that could be like a bigger discount, or that could just be kind of a free gift to loyal customers around that time. So taking care of your best customers and then finding a way to get them to purchase afterwards. So like I'll take Klaviyo, build a bounce back flow where if they purchase once within the Black Friday, Cyber Monday window, you have a flow that basically serves them an email right afterward, 2 days after Cyber Monday, that says, hey, just in case you missed anything during all of the holiday madness, here's a discount for, like, again, probably 5 to 10% less than your deepest Black Friday discount, but here's a discount just in case you need to get anything extra. So you can possibly get an extra sale out of that. So there's a lot of tactical things you can do, and then planning on for your audience lists, get your audiences built early, use content to get people to your site who you can possibly retarget during the holidays. Because those retargeting lists are going to be a lot cheaper than paying for the straight up acquisition on something else. So your retargeting list is going to be your best friend around that time. Even if somebody hasn't purchased, that's still going to be a more profitable transaction for you than a bloated acquisition cost of a new purchaser.
I got a good one for you. Okay, I'm a company and I've got a great social following, but I haven't been doing a great job of getting my list together. I'm behind on my CRM tactics, but I've got thousands of followers on Facebook and Instagram. How do I transition followers into my list?
Okay, and
I'm coming up. I'm teeing you up because we're dealing with this with some brands. I think that's a common challenge for brands that are a little behind with building their customer list, even though they feel like they're on those rented platforms, as we always call them.
Yeah,
you're renting space. You don't own it.
Yeah. So taking those lists and bringing them over. Granted, a big follower count and how long that follower count has been around, like those are going to be large variables that play into it. But again, you should hopefully be able to transition probably half of your active audience right now. And I'm saying half of your active audience being like the people that comment, share, engage with your brand continuously. You should be able to transition a large portion of them. Like, you're naturally not going to have like your whole audience subscribe to your email list, but transitioning as many as you can over around the holidays, like planning on it early. How do you give them the same incentive? Like offer to treat them like your best customers because they've been part of your community, saying, hey, we know this sounds, we don't want to be too forward, and we don't want to be too presumptuous, but we think you're some of our best customers. Like, how do we kind of get them over, saying like, hey, here's an extra discount on top of what we're already going to be doing for our consistent holiday sale, because they probably come to your holiday sales before. So offering them a higher level of incentive is going to offer them a reason to get into an opt-in list. And like, again, we've kind of been trained. You don't have to like bribe them, but get them over with some kind of incentive. That could be just like early access to holiday discounts, not like a higher level discount, but giving them some high level of incentive that's going to give them kind of a financial reason or some level of like exclusivity that's going to make it unique enough for them. Maybe saying like, hey, I'm part of we'll take, we're talking about Soap Club. Like, I'm part of the Soap Club VIP list. Like, I am going to have like access to the most exclusive soaps this holiday season because I opted into this list. So if you give them kind of some reason for a financial benefit or some reason for exclusivity, that's enough incentive to pull them over. Don't be doing a ton of sales messaging when you're trying to do that. That's a conversion in itself, getting them from one channel to the other. But find a way to start to mix that into your content mix where it's like the Gary Vee jab, 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 right hook. Like, that's what you're asking for in terms of a conversion, because when you're planning on using your social channels to convert a ton, you're not going to get the return you'd really like, because if you're too sales heavy, you're going to have people disengage and you're not going to have an active fan base or active community. But if you are able to kind of do it judiciously, get them over to an email list and then try and get them to convert, a lot more accurate way of like taking them down the customer journey that they're going to understand, because it's like building a relationship. You've got to you got to go on your first date, you got to go on a second date, you got to have a first kiss, you got to do all those things. Like just look at it in the same case. But planning on building that into your marketing cadence after the holidays too. So you're continually building your lists and treating them like the rock stars they are, because like again, the rest, like the service industry like has known this for years. Like your best customers, you take care of them because they're your best customers and they bring in so much revenue for your business. So how do you roll out the red carpet for them, from social to email to conversion?
Love it. Good
And
advice.
again, I used to be I still am a very big proponent for social. Like I have bounded rationality around social right now, because email is closer to the value chain than social is in a lot of cases. I spent the majority of my career in social, but the same rules apply. It's just one step closer to the value chain. It's like, how do you get people to come back and purchase again?
Yeah, exactly. And it's so funny you use the relationship comparison, but it's true. How many brands want to get married on day one with their customers? And hey, you got to date. You gotta have that first kiss. It's not marriage
And
day one.
if somebody wants to get married on day one, you like what advice would you give your friend? Like, hey, somebody wants to get married on day one. Like,
Slow down.
hey, run for the hills. That person is crazy. Like that's probably the case, but again, not thinking about everything is like a value transaction. Like earn credibility, earn trust, earn respect, and be able to like build it over time, because it's probably a slower game for some people. And some people, like if they're bottom of the funnel, like if they just need to make a transaction, that's great. You served a purpose. You had a transaction on Google Shopping. But if you're able to kind of build that over time and earn that revenue, they're probably going to come back, and they're probably going to come back again, and they're probably going to tell their friends. And where your 80-20 rule kind of plays into this, like that 20% is going to be your 80% later on. So if you can turn more people into that 20%, that base grows a lot bigger. And I'm just a believer in that.
Yeah. So, I know we've both dealt with some transition and conversions from different platforms, and as e-commerce goes, and being a podcast that tries to show no preferential treatment, but I think we've both learned that making some decisions on the front end for brands, or as an agency working on behalf of a brand, is just vital in the platform they choose, based on the goals, just based on the realities. And both kind of, us being, our agency being a Shopify partner now, I don't mind, touting them and the growth they've seen and had, and the integrations and everything else. But having dealt with a little bit of a not painful, it's been successful, but maybe painful for the brand you're working on. Love to get your perspective on that.
So yeah, I was, again, before the show, we were talking about kind of transitioning and migrations, and recently had a group move over from a big commerce site to Shopify, and was a really exciting example of what happens when things work smoothly, work consistently, and kind of how it raises the level of every other bit of their marketing. So again, you could have great marketing on the organic side, on the email side, on the paid side. But if you're bringing everybody into a subpar experience, they're probably still going to convert. But if you can give them a great experience that they're going to convert at twice the level, that's a real win for everybody. And building your operations on a stable platform is huge. So that's like where Shopify is growing and expanding. That's kind of one of your biggest advantages, is like you may not have that like personal touch with every Shopify rep, and they do a lot to work to scale that. But they've solved so many problems already, and they know kind of what problems retailers and merchants fall into, and they're able to solve that so quickly because they have like basically a solution system at scale. And when you're on a system that's meant for high level of conversions, high level of interactivity, basically you can focus on what's going to make your business the best, as opposed to the nuts and bolts systems of a system that may not necessarily work as efficiently. So like from BigCommerce to Shopify, like I will never look at BigCommerce the same way. It's just like BigCommerce is like very, very far down in my books right now relative to Shopify, because it's just so much better than everything else. It's like we talked, like your BigCommerce site may look beautiful and like kind of gorgeous, but it's under the hood, it's like a golf cart engine and doesn't necessarily work the same way as something you really want to. So like if you're driving across the country, you don't want to be driving a golf cart. You want to be driving at least a sedan, or a sedan you could improve on and make a little bit better and make it a little bit more comfortable. You don't want to trick it out too much, because that'll bloat and float on the site. But like, you get my analogy. It's trying to find a way to have something that's going to scale with you, that's going to serve the function you want to. And like going from a BigCommerce site to seeing a Shopify site convert twice the level, it's exciting. And like, again, the next fun problem you get to solve is like, how do we scale our warehouse suddenly? And like, we can't get stuff out the door fast enough. And which is, again, a good problem to have, but it's a situation that having a stable platform makes a big difference. And having a platform that converts at a high level, it just makes everything better.
Yep.
Like from sorry, go for it.
Yeah. The comparison to, like you said, when you sign up for these, no matter what size you are as a brand, I mean, it's one thing for a small business that has very little resources, much less a medium to large brand, but having to worry about when you sign up for these platforms, is my site speed good? Is my shopping cart functioning properly? Am I converting, like getting hung up from cart to checkout to shipping? Like, if you're having to worry about that on your platform, it is just so contrary to the nuts and bolts that you should be focusing on, which was, product price, promotion, everything. That's what you need to be focused on, not the checkout system of the platform. That's what you're paying for, to get that.
You should never be searching for bugs. And when you're searching for bugs, that's when things are a problem, because you're trying to dissect what's going on that's not working on your site, because your conversion rate has fallen through the tubes. And like, I've seen, like, had this happen where like BigCommerce analytics would just poop out for a week or two and not come back for a little while. And it suddenly came back up. And again, why did that happen? And kind of got a little bit radio silence from the other end. But having a system that's going to be more stable and more secure for you is going to make a huge difference. And again, I'm sorry for the BigCommerce crew that's on the other side of this, like just cursing my name right now, but it's a tough position. And when Shopify is coming in with a platform that can do it so much easier and so much better, it's just the solution that I look for, because you do focus on the things that make you great, and that you get to do marketing again. And when you're not thinking about like how to like make the system work, you can make your marketing better, and you can make your operations better, and you can make your user experience better. And that's what's going to kind of differentiate those brands, because like having a system and having a checkout system that works, that's table stakes. Like, nobody cares about that. It's the things that you have to go kind of above and beyond to do that are going to be the separate. It's going to be what separates you from others in that industry.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. We've gone through migrations from a Squarespace site to an e-commerce site. Don't even talk about Squarespace, but e-commerce it's probably better than Squarespace.
Yeah.
But just
Squarespace.
For anyone listening, and you're just moving into e-commerce, choose wisely on the front end, because it's twice as painful and costly to redo it the second time.
and again, with any migration, like, you're going to lose, like, if you're a big site and the bigger you get on the organic side, the more organic traffic and the larger portion of your revenue that's coming from organic, the more painful it's going to be, because you're going to have some drop in organic with any major migration, because the site, Google's going to index you differently. So the earlier you do it, the more financially viable is for your business, because you're not going to be worrying about like recovering all that organic revenue afterwards. And like in this case, like this is a case where we saw no organic drop really, because the site was performing so much better that it's head and shoulders above where it was in the past. So really no drop in organic revenue in this case, but normally you're going to have some drop, and it's always kind of a crapshoot to try and make those work out smoothly. I had, again, in a previous career, in a previous life, as director of marketing for a large e-com, had some gray hairs from a large migration, but when you get it done right and you get it done early, it's going to be really helpful for you in the long run. And you're not going to be trying to fix small things all the time. It's going to be wasting your time and effort, and it's kind of spreading your team thin where it doesn't need to be.
It's kind of a final segment here. Anything, on the platform side, or, I don't want to say new bells and whistles, but, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or, the things they're doing with shopping, anything, news and noteworthy just from maybe a tech or platform or digital marketing standpoint?
So like, I'm always, again, as a marketer, and I'm always kind of a believer in the, like you need to go where the attention's going. Like you need to not be in love with the platform. You need to be in love with the attention that the platform drives. And like, if people are spending 2 or 3 hours a day on a platform, understanding why they're there and what's keeping them there is always important. So again, thinking about that from the technology standpoint, like the shopping side of things, like there's huge opportunities in like the Instagram shopping as an opportunity for a business, because like you already have such a large audience spending time there, engaging there. If you can make that shopping experience native to the platform they're already spending 2 hours a day on, for anybody in that certain demographic window that's there, that's a huge opportunity. So like not going in like full steam ahead with like trying to go in like first touch, like try and open up some subtlety with like a first touch that's a little bit more brand focused as opposed to like shopping focused. But once you can kind of open up the door for a shopping focused experience there on the second, third touch, like those all open up a huge door for opportunities and allow people to kind of shop in a native experience that's going to be similar to what they're getting anyways. And the seamless use of that, I think I'm kind of excited to see more groups kind of jumping on board with and experimenting with. And if nothing else, just the experimentation side of things, because if it's a new ad unit, it's probably going to be undervalued. It's not going to be probably weighted as heavily as some others. And going into some more like retail, like some more not high ticket items, but items that are a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, I feel like will be kind of fit into that area really well. Like apparel, again, cosmetics probably fits into that category really well too. All of those things that you're trying to dissect what's going on, and the groups that can do a great job on the creative side too, and trying to make that experience on that Instagram shopping good and smooth and seamless, are going to be the ones that are going to be the ones winning there too. So probably underserved ad unit right now as terms of pricing goes, so maybe a little bit cheaper or undervalued, and then kind of exciting because it's something new that's going to be native to the platform that people are already spending all their time on.
Yep. Love it. Well, man, I always appreciate your insights. I know everyone listening does. And, let's keep fighting the good fight for Shopify.
Yeah. And I'm like, I was like, in full transparency, I own stock in Shopify. I'm like, I don't need to say that. Nobody's going to, people are not making financial decisions off my advice. And if they are, but putting my dogs in that fight right now. Again, have a lot more faith in Shopify, but everybody's trying to figure this out. It's still the wild, wild west. And we just had a bunch of new people coming to town on the e-commerce side. So the wild, wild west got a little bit wilder.
I know. Focus on your lists, get ready for holiday, make the right platform choices, experiment. Great insight, man. Really appreciate you.
Hey, appreciate you. This is always fun. This is always a pleasure. Get to talk to a really brilliant marketing mind. But what's kind of what's the biggest thing in your radar right now though, Ryan? Like you've been asking me questions. What's the biggest thing on your radar right now?
Honestly, it's kind of, I've tried to stay out of the, not negativity, but the political and, socioeconomic outcome of COVID combined with, movements, combined with stuff. I'm kind of like ready for some, it's so, I think, distracting for people right now, that, I think everybody's kind of searching for, we talked about the new normal and next normal and all that kind of stuff. I think I'm ready, to see the plane land a bit on whatever normal looks like, in the consumer space of all that's impacting, like, I feel like there's just still so many, like, you felt like there was going to be some planes landed by now. And I still feel like there's just a lot of things dangling. And in some ways that doesn't necessarily impact business and marketing, but I feel like it is right now a little bit, because I think it's hitting the mindset of brands and marketers, because I don't think they have they're not as committed to one path or another right now. They don't have the confidence. I feel like there's a lack of confidence right now because there's a lack of consumer behavior that might be typical. Yes, things have moved to e-commerce. Yes, brick and mortar is struggling with COVID. And so my mind is like wrapping my head around where all of these paths go and the impact that they're going to have on all of these marketing channels as we move forward, And so again, we're doing a lot of tactical day-to-day work for brands and companies. We're doing a ton of, we probably have 10 e-commerce builds going on right now for clients, which is big for us, And so we're in the tactical everyday nuts and bolts of getting brands up to speed on e-commerce, optimizing list creation. All of that's going on, but I think my heads are a little bit more in the clouds right now of kind of thinking and observing on where this is going to make the best recommendations for clients kind of moving forward, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how do you like, as an agency, you're not, again, not the one just doing like the nuts and bolts tactical things. Like, you're the one kind of advising the director of marketing. You're advising those groups on how to position their business for success long term. Exactly. And kind of like, that's, as marketers, like, we need to be focusing on those things too, not just the nuts and bolts tactics. Because again, if you're in your business, you can't always see everything at a 10,000 foot view, and that's what you have your partners for.
Yeah.
So
I think I've had my heads more in the clouds lately, not playing in the clouds and being aloof, but more kind of keeping my ear, to the ground, kind of seeing where things are going next and trying to build what's first quarter 2021 look like. What's, not because we don't need to make hay with holiday, but, what is that going to look like and how do we best position? And, obviously, if you're brand building, you need to always be building brand. We practice and preach content development and purpose-driven marketing, all those things. But, it's just such a powder keg right now for, like, everything's so black and white, like there's no acceptance of gray. And I think it's kind of a dangerous position that I want to see us kind of get out of. I want to see more grays, and painting with that brush a little bit more. So it's interesting times, but, I'm also excited by it because I do know that, as marketing changes, the world changes, everything's changing. And like you said, there's always a puzzle to solve.
It keeps us young, and it keeps us entertained and engaged. And like, again, maybe we live in interesting times.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly.
Cool. That's a good insight. That's, again, thinking down the line 6 months from now. It's not easy to do, but it's as a marketer, we need to be thinking about those things. Yeah. So yeah, good on you.
Yeah. And my last takeaway is, helping B2B brands think more like B2C. That's on my mind right now as we're working with many, and a lot of them are taking that space, but I still feel like that is the biggest white space area in marketing is B2B thinking like B2C, B2B moving to e-com. Yes, I know there's 10 decision makers and not one when you're buying toothpaste, but like, I'm going to keep beating that drum with the brands that we're working with and kind of moving down that channel.
People consume content as people already. Why don't they consume content as a business? They're the same person when they're at home or when they're at work. And even if they're a little bit more buttoned up, how do you take that same approach and communicate the way people want to be communicated with? I think that's an area you're spot on there. That's an area that's just underrepresented right now.
Yeah. And we're working together with several companies projects that are right down that path, so we get to practice what we preach.
And it's fun getting to see them kind of like come to life in that area, those areas, because like those are where some big wins are available. And they're for so many of them that future is right there for them to be had. And it's just kind of whoever's going to move first in that industry is going to gain that competitive foothold in wherever that vertical is.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, hey guys, really appreciate everyone listening to today's episode. Go follow Robbie Fitzwater on LinkedIn. You'll see a lot of Robbie's content, lots of great insights, and lots of good book recommendations and podcast recommendations, which I appreciate from time to time.
Well, always something new. Always trying to come up with something new and having fun. And you're on the other end with great content yourself. So
hey, we gotta practice what we preach around here, So cool, man. Really appreciate it. And thanks for everyone for listening. You can follow along for all of their episodes. All of our episodes are at theradcast.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at the.rad.cast. You can follow along with any of my stuff. Look me up, Ryan Alford, on LinkedIn, and you'll see Robbie and I going back and forth on lots of stuff. There's lots of old episodes for things that Robbie and I have covered. Robbie gives a lot of great tactical advice on e-com and digital marketing. And all right, Robbie, I guess we'll see everyone next time.
We'll see you guys around. And tune into this e-commerce series. There's some cool things in the pipeline. Don't worry. I'm the appetizer. The real meal is coming next.
Oh, that's not true. We're having steak the entire series. Just different flavors. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
We'll see everybody next time.
Hey.